What's up guys, Yanni from 801 Garage here, and today we're going to be installing the Eibach Pro Kit on our 2018 Civic SI. I picked the Eibach Pro Kit because it still drops it still gets rid of the gap that we're looking to get rid of, but it doesn't change it too drastically that it really screws up your drivability. So what we're going to show you is we're going to first do one side, get all our errors out of the way, and then show you guys installing the other side. We'll talk you through kind of what we had issues with, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, so now we're going to get started here on this side of the car. We already did the other side first, but now we're going to record over here. We wanted to kind of get our mess ups out of the way before we actually recorded it. So, you're not going to be able to see it as good right now, since it is on blocks on the other side, but that's kind of what stock height looks like. And then that's on the springs. So you can see it's not that huge of a difference. I only went for an inch lower just because I didn't want to fuck up drivability. So, I mean, I still wanted to be able to drive it everywhere and not have it be a pain in the ass. You can always go lower. I went with the Eibach Pro Kit, I think. Yep, the Pro Kit. You can also get the sport lines that drop it just a little bit more than these ones. And those ones are red. So, let's get started over here on this side. We're going to jack up the car. And we're going to do the fronts first and then the rears. Alright, so I'll let Julio explain what tools we need for this job.
We need all the tools for this job. A jack, rubber mallet, the shittiest pry bar you could ever find, which is not really a pry bar, it just goes to the jack.
Yes, that's our pry bar.
And, well, we don't need those, it's just a lot faster.
It is a lot faster. You can always just use your ratchet to do all these things that we're going to do, but these make it a million times easier to, one, take off the tires and undo all the bolts. You don't say cut at the beginning of the thing, you say cut at the end. Alright guys, so first what we're going to do is, so this is on the front, underneath your disc brakes right here, you are going to find these three bolts right here. So we're going to undo these bolts. Do you remember what size they were? 17? 17s? Are you sure? Or are these the last ones that we did? Yep, 17s. So we're going to need to undo these three bolts. We're also going to end up undoing this guy right here. I have like no light down here. There we go. And then these two guys right here for this end link right here. A few clips. Undo your sensor for your wheels right here. Alright, so there's a clip right here that you're just going to need to undo. There's a little film over it. You just pull it back and then undo that. Then we go to the top of the car. We're going to need to undo these three bolts right here. And then you also just take off this little lid, and then there's a bolt that we're going to need to do there. But we'll get to that. Yes. Oh, I actually almost forgot. There's a bolt right here in the back that you're going to need to undo right here. That's the bolt that actually holds your strut on here. Jesus, I can't focus this for the life of me. Anyway, there's a bolt right here. That's what you're going to need to undo in order to get your strut off of this piece right here. Like Julio said, you're going to need, well, you don't need, but it's definitely handy. You want a second jack to kind of hold this piece, because as soon as you undo these three bolts down here in the bottom and you undo this right here, this whole assembly is just going to kind of drop. And so you want to be very careful because your CV boot is right behind it and you could rip that very easily. So if you have your jack to just kind of sit underneath right here to hold that up, it makes your life much easier. Alright, so first we're going to undo those three bolts that we talked about on the bottom. Again, size 17. So when you undo them, you just take the tops here, set them aside, get a box, a little bag, something so you don't lose all your stuff, because that sucks. Alright, so we're just going to undo this bolt right here, and this one is a 12 millimeter. Okay, so there's going to be 2 bolts. The first one is right here in the front, and that holds this front hose so that this comes off. And then just directly behind it on the side is where the second one is going to be, and that is also a 12 millimeter. What?
For the bracket.
Oh yes, Julio says that takes off the bracket. He's correct. Alright, and then once you get these out, just kind of move these hoses out of the way. There's going to be 2 little clips that are sitting in the strut assembly right here. All you got to do is push it on both sides and then just pull it out. And I'm probably going to make Julio come back and do it.
Nope, push one side at a time.
Alright, so now we're going to undo 2 more bolts. I've seen a lot of people just undo one of them. I found out that just undoing both of them just made our life easier last time. So you want to just undo this top bolt right here. And then if you do want to do both of them, all you do is undo the one at the bottom as well. And those are 14 millimeters. Alright, so what we ended up doing was, as you can see, this is where the sensor is. So we need to take that part off. And then all you need to do is take this bracket apart. So when it's on, you just take off the bolts from here and here. And you just kind of move this out of the way. Here's your sensor. And then we undid this bolt up here and this bolt down here. And now all we got to do is undo this bolt back here that actually holds the strut assembly together. And then we can take this apart. Now, don't forget to hit these 3 bolts down here. It's actually, the strut just won't drop with if you don't end up doing that. So after you've got all these apart, just kind of move them over to the side. Undo this, and then you can undo the 3 on the top, and then the whole thing will drop down. Boom. Alright. Okay, right at the top. Okay guys, so now we're going to undo these 3 bolts up here. We're going to leave this middle one until after when we've already compressed the spring later on. So now what we're going to do is, again, with our tool, 14 millimeter. As you can see, it dropped down a little bit, now it's a little loose. So now, as soon as we pull it out of the bottom, then we'll be good to go. Okay, so what we need to do is take this guy out right here, and then separate these 2. When you're first separating these 2, that makes your life much easier.
Oh, that's work.
You smash on it a little bit with a rubber mallet, just to kind of get that break away. Sometimes you get some rusting in here and it's kind of a pain in the ass to split the 2. So it's always a good idea to kind of just beat with it a little bit. And as you can see, that just separated it, and that just gets your first going a little bit. So as soon as you've removed this portion here, then you can just finish separating that. If you're having an issue getting this apart, don't be scared to grab onto this piece and just kind of shimmy it left and right until you've split it completely. You can pause it. All right, so we took that linkage off and this just kind of dropped. Okay, Julio took off the linkage and then it kind of dropped. Just make sure that the 3 bolts that we undid at the bottom, it's this right here on your lower control arm. So you just basically lift it and move it over to the side. We already undid the bolts at the top like we said earlier, so now all we got to do is kind of just shimmy this. See how it moves left and right? Just shimmy it out of this hole and then just basically pull it up and out.
And be careful.
And be careful.
Because your boot might rip back here.
Yep, this CV boot right here, a lot of people have ripped it because they hit it on this piece of metal right here. So just be super careful with it and yeah, just yank it out.
And this is Yanni attempting.
Alright, so we got the strut out. Again, you just twist and left and right. It helps to have a jack underneath it so you can just kind of center it. And so it just doesn't drop on you. As soon as you take that strut out, this entire assembly is just going to fall. So make sure you have some kind of jack or something underneath it to catch it. Otherwise it's going to hurt. Now, also keep in mind, this is heavy, so when it falls, just be ready for it to fall. If you've got, like me, I just kind of put my legs underneath it so that it would just kind of land in my lap. But just be prepared for it because it's kind of heavy. Now, once the strut assembly is out, it looks like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our spring compressors and grab it on each end so that we can take this apart. Alright, so I've got the spring compressors on here. Put one on each side. Basically just put the hook on top and then just lock the pin in so that it locks it in place like that on both ends. Okay, so now what this is going to do is we're going to take our wrench and just stick it on right here, and then you tighten it all the way. So basically this is going to tighten all the way to here, therefore then compressing this, and it'll compress your spring. The reason you want to do this is we have to undo this lock nut right here, and this holding in all the pressure of this spring. So if you just take off this nut right here without without compressing these springs, this is going to shoot. Okay, and it's very dangerous. So you need to be very careful when you're doing this part and make sure that you compress these springs before you undo this nut, okay? Good. Okay, so now even though we did do the spring compressors, I'm still gonna point the part that's gonna shoot out somewhere else, just in case. But as long as we've done everything correctly, nothing should explode. So now, we're just going to take our 17 millimeter, stick it in the middle. And we're good. The top hat comes right off. Okay, so now that you've got this, you unassemble this. All you do is take the top hat off and then take the spring off. Now on the spring, it's got a little hat on the top and on the bottom of it. Make sure you take both of those as well and put them on your new spring. I'm on. Okay, so this was our old spring. These are the stock ones, and these are the sport lines. So this is what it all looked like, kind of taken apart. So you had your spring, this portion, and then your top hat. So for this portion to come out after you take off your top hat, make sure that this whole bottom piece is come out of the whole entire shock assembly. And there's also one more kind of little rubber piece that sits on this. It might come off when you do this, it might not. It doesn't really matter because you need to put it back on anyways. Just make sure all the little holes are lined up and it's clicked into place. And then all you're gonna do is basically put everything back into reverse. You just take your spring. The way you know if it's the correct way, kind of right side up, if you can read the Eibach sign right there, that means you've got it correct. So you're just going to slide it in, and if you'll notice, I'm going to take it off here for just a second, but if you notice on the bump stop right here on the bottom, it's got one end of it that it looks like something can slide into it, and another end of it that looks like it stops. Alright guys, so when we're putting it back all together, just on this bump stop on the bottom, you can kind of see one end looks like it could put something into it, one end will stop it. So you're just going to take your spring, put it right on there, and then just kind of squeeze it in and turn it until it won't go anymore, because this bottom rubber piece is going to stop it, and so then your spring is on there. So now everything else you're just going to put in reverse. So we got this piece again. I'm going to slide that over your shock, and for the top of it, it's kind of the same as the bottom, where where your spring finishes right here, you're going to find a little hole in the top of the top bump stop, and you're just going to kind of slide your spring through there until again it doesn't twist anymore, just like the bottom one, because it has an end part, and then that's now on there. And then we're going to take our top hat, and then we're just going to slide that on top, and now we're kind of assembled. So the last thing we have to do to be able to put this nut back on top is get our spring compressors again, compress this spring, and then put the nut on top of this, of the top of the shock. So guys, what he's doing now is this cover on the top is to keep dust out of your shock basically. So now he's taking it, and there's little clips at the bottom of the strut that you just push those onto. So then that sits still. Okay, so the one thing, we're gonna put it back on now. The one thing I do want you to notice is on this bottom piece, you see how there's kind of a slit right there in the back? All right there. So when you're putting your strut back in, there's a little piece on here. Let me flip this over. It is right there. You see that little divot right there? That piece needs to line up with that. That's going to save you a lot of heartache to remember that. So just remember, anytime you're putting this little, you're putting this back on, this little kind of point right there needs to go in there. All right, guys, so we put the new strut back in. Honestly, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. This part's kind of a bitch. The way that we did it was we put the strut in and then set it in here first, then put the bolt in so that this part doesn't move anymore. Then we did the top bolts, and now we're gonna do this linkage right here. We do the top one first, and then for the bottom one, since this flexes and can move down, we'll do this bottom part. And then at the very, very end, we'll do the 3 bolts that we did at the bottom, which are these 3 guys right here. And again, for this, the lower control arm bends down, so you can move this with a pry bar or with whatever you got to line this up. So we'll get back to you guys as soon as we finish that up. All right, guys, so we got everything bolted back up. Don't forget, redo this sensor up here. And then you have 2 bolts, one right here, one right behind it to hold in this bracket and this brake line. And then we've got the 2 bolts, one right here for this linkage, and the same bolt at the bottom for that linkage. The 3 bolts at the bottom, these 3 up here, and then super important, don't forget to tighten up this nut again, and then you're all good to go with the fronts. So now we're gonna move over to the backs. They're super duper easy compared to the front. So that front took us probably like an hour long, maybe an hour and a half. And these backs take like 15 minutes. So all we're gonna do, get here under the car. So you can see the springs are actually separate from the shock itself. So all we're gonna do is right here for this spring, just undo, whoa, excuse me, undo that bolt right there, and then undo that bolt right there, and that's it. This lower control arm drops, you pull the spring out, put the new one in, and do those 2 bolts back up. That's it. Super duper easy. Guys, so we took the old spring out and then just put the new one back in. Where we ran into an issue was this got stuck, and so that's the one that comes off on this bolt right here. So Julio, you can tell him what you did to get that shit out.
I just put a pry bar right here, just slammed it down as hard as I could, and bam.
And so then once that was out, he could put the new spring back in, and then now we just got to replace these 2 bolts, and then we're good to go.
Replace.
All right, guys, so that was the video for today. If you have any questions, please hit us up in the comments down below. Also, feel free to start following me on social media. My Instagram is yon, YON_801 garage. So I post on there fairly regularly. You can come see some cool pictures of the car and stuff if you like it. Other than that, please, we just barely hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm so stoked for that. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I love the support that you guys are giving, commenting, liking, sharing the videos. Please keep doing that. Next, I guess, milestone will be 5,000, so we'll get there in no time, I'm sure. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really, really, really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in for the next video. We are actually going to start doing some videos on kind of my friends' cars, their history with cars. We've got some cool stuff coming up. And it's kind of in a format that I don't see very often on YouTube. So I'm pretty stoked to start showing you guys those videos as well. So stay tuned for those. Please make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to make sure that you don't miss out on those videos. We'll see you guys then.